guys, welcome back to the Inshore Journal. I'm here with Captain Mark House, and today we are nearshore fishing for gray trout. We're jigging off of Carolina Beach and Masonburg Island. And Mark, it's a beautiful day today, and you know, the fish seem like they're schooled up outside. We've been out here the last couple of days and really gotten on them. So now that we've gotten back in here to the studio, tell us a little bit about our trip today.
They were snapping, that was for sure, and you put us right on the fish. We probably caught, gosh, what would you say? I just would even hate to put a number on how many.
2 hours of fishing, and we were getting hit 4 or 5 times by the time, you know, the bait, by the time you flip the bell, you're already getting hits on these jigs. So, I mean, it was nonstop.
It really was, and it was just such a beautiful day. The ocean was just greased up. I mean, it just was, it just doesn't get any better than it was.
Yeah, out there in a 20-foot flats boat, no freeboard, and I mean, it was just as calm as it could be. And the fish, like Mark said, were so schooled up. As soon as we got out there and I saw them on the sonar, I was like, there they are. And I mean, it didn't take 2 drops, we were already double hooked up. And the only thing I would say is we started the day out inside speckled trout fishing and caught some speckled trout. We really didn't have any gear we weren't really prepared to go near shore, but the water was so beautiful outside, man. I could see it from the inlet when we went by, and I was like, man, we have got to go out there and do some jigging. I just happened to have a few jigs on the boat, using the same rods we were using for speckled trout, a little bit lighter than what we usually use,
Right.
Medium light action stuff, and man, it didn't matter. The only thing that would have helped is if we'd have had a little bit heavier jigs, you know, than what we had. I had 3/4 ounce jigs we were jigging. And the bluefish were getting us every time it would come off the bottom about a couple feet.
Yeah, they were in the column. It was really unique how they were just 3 foot. If you got in that column, that's where the bluefish were at. I mean, they would chew you up. And yeah, so yeah, a little heavier would have got us to the bottom a little quicker, but nonetheless, it was still a very, very fun day.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to the action, guys. Well, it's been a pretty day, man. Anytime you can get a westerly wind off of our beaches around, you know, Wrightsville to Carolina Beach, it just lays the beach down and just makes it where it's comfortable out here, you know, for these small boats like mine. Got another good one? Yeah. Gloves on today, man. My hands just now healed up from 2 weeks ago where we're catching all these blues and stuff. Oh, and I had cuts all over my hands, man. Had one that's still swollen up, you know, from those blues. But I'll tell you what, man. I'm thankful to get on bites like that every now and then. It makes it easier on us, you know.
It's amazing how steady this boat is too. You know, we're both standing on the front, on the bow, and it's not even moving.
It's a flats boat, but it
doesn't perform like
one. It performs more like a bay boat, even though it's got the low sides. The only thing that it lacks is freeboard out here in the ocean. But man, it rides good, fishes good inside, and you know, on the right day you can come out here. But this, you know, this is the right day for this boat. You know, 2 to 3 foot, not so much. You know, when you got a 12 inches of freeboard, 2 feet doesn't do much for you out in the ocean, you know, in slop, because you know, sitting still, you're gonna spear those waves, and you know, if they come over the back when you're kind of backing down with the trolling motor or the motor, you're gonna, you know, bring water into the boat. But daylight of day, it does well.
You haven't even been on my new boat, have you?
I haven't, but I've seen it.
Yeah, I got to keep going. I'll tell you, I'm real.
It's pretty.
Yeah, that boat is considered a semi-custom boat. I mean, it's like I say, you look at Kent Craft online, it's their base series. They're coming out with a new. Joel was telling me they're changing the top side this year a little bit. And I hadn't really seen yet what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
But I have really enjoyed it this summer. It's just been a great versatile boat.
It's a good looking boat, man. I can only imagine that it performs as well as it looks. I mean, looks like a tried and true hull. They've been making that hull for a few years now, haven't they?
Oh yeah, that's the old Supro hull.
Yeah, and that's known for being a soft ride. That's especially in chop. Those are well-built boats.
Ah, right there, that's where you want to release it.
That's right. We're happy to get those releases when it's been a good day of catching. When you're catching 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 and it's tough, you want to land those fish. But after you caught, 50 to 100 of them, it's nice to have them flop off out of the boat because you get the best out of them. You get the fight out of them, and bite them up through the boat, and then you don't even have to touch them. Better for you, better for the fish. I'm telling you, it's just the key is getting vertical.
It really is.
I can't stress it enough. It sounds simple, but every time I got behind the boat and was dragging it, I wasn't getting bites. I was getting a bite every now and then, but as soon as I threw it up into the current and let it drift back, man, and got vertical on it, man, right back to catching again. Another good fish. Rolling a few minutes there, I think the cheering up. Tell you what, it's almost nice this time of year because it cuts me off at a decent hour. I always fish till dark. And now it's getting dark at 5 o'clock, so now I can go ahead and get home at a decent hour and do what I need to do and not feel rushed. Nice trout. Getting smaller, Mark. Drift it off in a better one.
Look to see what we're still
I'm not
on
even
top of here.
turning around if you want. And they're still down there.
Yeah, it's not quite what we were seeing earlier.
They're still hitting as soon as it drops, but that's not the same fish. Not complaining, man.
No,
That's what I'm
not at
saying.
all.
Never leave fish to find fish. We're on a good little drift. And a lot of times what I've noticed, man, is you get on a bite of these gray trout and it almost seems like the school will stay with you sometimes even when you're drifting. They're just curious of that jig you keep dropping down there. It has to be what it is because there's no structure sometimes when you're drifting off of the rocks and the wrecks and live bottom. Because these fish aren't going to hang off of the sand. That's not where the bait is. Ruined your towel, man. Compliments of the old hotel, man. Those are the best towels. It's white ones you can get there. They get dirty in a second, man, but damn if they aren't the right thickness.
Well, on the right size too. They're not like the big beach towels.
That's right. I think we might be getting up to 60 and 70 fish by now. And it's like every drop. A lot of quick releases too. God's choice.
There we go.
Perfect.
How do you like to prepare these gray trout?
I like to fry them. My wife's a country girl. All she does is fry. So she really sautés them. I say fry, but they're not deep fried. She'll saute them. Every once in a while, put some panko crumbs on them after you sear them in the pan, put them in the oven. But man, they're really good. I mean, they're not a real hardy fish to grill. Like a grouper or something.
They don't hold up as well.
No, but man, you can bake them, you can broil them, you can blacken them.
As far as gump.
Yep. You really can't go wrong.
You got your pineapple gray trout.
The gray trout really is a great tasting fish because they're not fishy. You know, I mean, they're just
That's a pretty white meat.
pretty white meat. And a lot of your stuff out here on the ocean, on the front side, is like that. Almost everything's edible. You know? You will get your oyster toads that you love, and you know your lizard fish. But other than that, man, a lot of it, almost everything's edible. Even bluefish is good eating if you prepare them right.
That's what I've always said. It's just like oysters. Somebody, the man who figured out eating an oyster, he must have been really hungry.
Yeah, they sure don't look edible, do they?
I love them, but
They are not the prettiest. You know they're thick when you're dropping your bait and you're seeing your line jump from them hitting it as it falls. I think these fish are 10 feet off the bottom, all the way to the bottom. I've got another one, and the next time we do this, I'll bring one. I've done that in the wintertime where it's so clear you can see down there.
visibility is where you can do it, yeah, because the summer would prohibit you from doing that.
Exactly. You know, our wintertime, that water cleans up, kills the bacteria, you know, it's crystal clear around here. So we may do that the next trip, man. That'd be awesome. See them hitting these jigs. And just seeing how many are actually looking at it before that one signs up, you know? Right now, I bet you there's a bunch of them fighting over it as quick as we're getting bit. As that water cools, a lot of times, you know, the bite will slow down. They'll still be here, but you won't catch them like this all winter. Yeah, a couple winters ago, I dropped cameras down from Nearshore, you know, half a mile off the beach on some of these rocks that I've been wondering what was down there. I see it on my sonar, on the down imaging, side imaging, and then the standard, you know, sonar like we were talking about earlier. And you just wonder what's down there. Is that a ship? Is that a scuttled boat? Is it a, you know, what kind of structure is that? Rock or ledge? It's amazing, man, what is down there. And some of these spots that we fish at, like right where we're fishing right now. And in the wintertime, that water gets clean and you can see everything down there. And there's sheep's head down there, tautog. I even saw grouper a couple miles off the beach on some of these spots, man. And that's usually, theory would tell you they're in the Gulf Stream, you know, in those cooler weather months. But I've seen all sorts of stuff down on these wrecks. Redfish, gray trout, but a lot of black sea bass, you know, the further out you get to. Back into the bigger ones are, yeah. I'm about to say that took a little bit longer. So I had that one snagged a little bit under the head. They always fight better when they're snagged.
Look at that one, Ray. He's nice.
Yeah, that's a good one. Got a little girth on that one.
Yep. He's got a little shoulders on.
That's like what we started with. I haven't seen those in a while. amazing how many fish are hitting these jigs too, man, before you actually hook up sometimes. I've already been hit like 6 times.
Now, yeah, mine same way. You can really feel them, like you say, when you got it vertical. This ocean is allowing it to do that today.
Finally figured his drift out. I was really struggling when we got out here. The wind was a little bit stronger and it had a little bit of north in it, man, where it's pushing us sideways. Now, man, we got it figured out, this drift.
It's real important to know your regulations too when you come out.
Just because this thing has a lot of spots on it doesn't mean he's a speckled trout, which you're allowed to keep more speckled trout than gray trout. You can only keep one of these and it has to be over 12 inches per person. In black sea bass, you can catch a gazillion of them, but you have to really be careful because you don't only keep fish that are over 13 inches, and it changes all the time. It could change again this year, so you got to keep up with your regulations every time you go out. You need to be aware of it. Even from Mark and I mean, the flounder was changing.
Keep up with it.
I mean, for a long time, the flounder was changing almost every 3 or 4 months. You remember when they closed the flounder, closed it to May. I mean, I remember when it was 12 inches. You could keep 50 of them at 12 inches, and then it went to 13, 14, 15, back to 14. Then they had to split, between Brown's Inlet and here. One side was 14 inches, the other was 15. So it was very confusing. At least now it's finally gotten where it's, it's standard for everywhere, inshore and offshore. But there used to be an inside limit and an outside limit, which was crazy. What do you do if you get stopped by the man inside and the regulations were different on the outside? You know what I mean? It was crazy for a while. So bottom line is do exactly what Mark said.
Yeah.
Stay on top of it. We go to the Marine Fisheries website. I think it's ncdmf.org, and you can find out the bag and size limit on all these fish that we're catching, in the nearshore and offshore waters.
Mine on these gray trout, I want to say is 250 fish.
It's up there.
It's a pretty
I've
good
never
find.
gotten one.
Not me either.
I know that it would probably hurt your pocketbook if you kept a cooler full. I'll put it that way. Anything you keep that's illegal and get caught with a cooler full, you're gonna get stuck. No. I mean, honestly, we're catching all these fish and throwing them all back. If you want to eat fish, I mean, it's cheaper to go buy clean fish at the fish market than to come out here and fish and keep, fish. I come out here to have fun, and I'll keep some every now and then, and it's good, but, man, you don't have to keep everything you catch out here. Talking about that Frank White show, he always practiced catch and release too on what you didn't eat. Don't fill the freezer up. Just keep what you can eat, while they're fresh.
I used to love that show.
I did too.
Had that, everything you had the zebra. You had the plane, the Cessna, and had what was that, an international, either a Bronco?
Something like that.
Yeah. Always had that Britney Spears.
Show.
Yeah.
All voiceover, which was cool, man.
And then I liked it because you kind of mixed in a little duck hunting with it.
Oh, yeah. And cooking.
And cooking. I always did a recipe at the end.
I always remember, man, as a kid, that's how we learned about house archery,
The
seafood breader, and fish bucking mix. It was on Frank White's show. Before it was corn, meal, and flour, And then that house archery, man, that's some good stuff. We still use that stuff.
I used to like the theme song. That was just a great show.
Mm-hmm. It was. Mark, let's catch one more of these and call it a day. I got to go pick the kiddies up.
No.
I know you got to get home. Your wife will get home.
We can stay here till it gets dark.
That's usually what I do. Yeah, my fishing partner on the IFA tournament series, Drew Arndt, he said that if I ever get my own TV show, it's going to be Fishing in the Dark with Rennie Clark.
That is great.
Man,
I
everywhere we
love
go.
that. Fishing in the Dark with Rennie Clark.
That's usually how I roll, man. Sun up and sun down. And sometimes beyond.
I know a lot of times when I talk to you, you do give the client a full day of fishing.
Mm-hmm. If they pay for a full day of fishing, that's what they're going to get. Alright, this is going to be the last one. Doubled up, end of the day. Now that's what I call an afternoon of catching. Good one? Hold him up there. Camera. Mine's not quite as nice.
You put up a little more fight on it.
Several nice fish, but that's a good way to end the day right there. Man, Mark, that was a hell of a day.
Wore out, man.
Yeah, man.
It really was one of the best days I've ever experienced great trout fishing. It really was. Everything just kind of came together. We speckled trout fish first part of the day, and caught some nice fish, and then just ended up with a lot of rod bending.
Yeah, I mean, we were out there maybe 4 hours, and the entire time we were out great trout fishing, it was catching. I mean, every
It was
drop.
catching today. That was for sure.
And you know, as you saw in the video, I mean, it was nonstop action. You'd miss one, another one would hit it. I mean, as soon as you got that line back in the water, the fish just seem to follow us. You know, there's not many days that you can get out on a drift like we did today and come off of the structure and the fish were still under us because we weren't anchored. I had my trolling motor and it wasn't even on spotlight. We just had it on autopilot, you know, on a slow speed to kind of keep the boat, you know, into the waves like we were fishing. And it seemed like the schools were just following us, you know. And I've noticed sometimes that happens. You know, you get on a big school of gray trout like that, you keep them entertained with that jig, just like when you're speckled trout fishing inside, you see a lot of fish that strike right at the boat. I think they're doing the same thing. They're seeing that jig down there. When one of us is hooked up, the other one is down with the other jig, and then when he gets hooked up, another jig's coming back down there. So I think it was almost like we were chumming them up with those
Right.
jigs, you know.
That's what I was just getting ready to say. It really was just like I said. We were chumming with metal instead of you know cut bait or live
Yeah.
bait, but they did just seem to kind of move around.
Yeah.
Where a lot of times they're concentrated on that structure where the bait is.
Yeah.
Today they really, you know, I think there was just some large numbers.
Big numbers.
Yeah, I think they were just there, and but like you said, we really did stay on top of them, and probably could have for as long as we wanted to.
Oh yeah, we left them biting. I had to go get the kids, and I dropped you off back at your dock, and it was a great day catching. And the coolest thing about it is it's all artificial bait fishing. We were using single hooks, so it was easy to get the fish off. And this is something you can do with your kids and your family. And in the fall, gray trout are really easy to find if you know what to look for. If you go with, you know, Mark or myself, I can show you the ropes, and or he can show you the ropes. But it's really about finding that structure and finding the bait that they're on that day. Because man, as you know, we can go out there to 10 different spots like we did today, and we didn't find anything. And then we finally hit them, you know. And when we got to the spot that we fished, I looked on the sonar. I said, "There they are." I mean, you can
You
tell.
could see them. You could, yeah.
You
knew
can
that
tell
was
the great
what was there.
trout. Yeah, you know, when you find them. And this fall has been a little tricky. It hadn't been as good as it has in the previous 3 years, but you can't beat the day that we had. I mean, today we caught a lot of them, and that's what you can do a lot of years on, you know, one of 100 different rocks in that area. But this year it just seems like you'll find them in one area or two areas, and they'll be stacked up if you're lucky.
Well, and you do, sometimes you have to work a little harder than other times, but I know, like, you know, both of us, we work hard at it, you know, just trying to find the fish and what to look for, and not every day, obviously, is was as fun packed as today was, but you typically can always, you know, find them if, you know, if the conditions are right.
Yeah, and if you don't find them, you'll find bluefish, black sea bass, sometimes Virginia mullet popping out. I mean, you never know what you're going to find on this nearshore structure and rocks, and that's what the beauty of nearshore fishing is, man. And also being able to use this metal and not have to mess with shrimp or cut bait or live bait. You just go out, you drop metal over the side, and you catch fish. It doesn't get much easier than that.
And like Captain Randy said, we were not even really prepared to do that. It was kind of just a whim. We were, you know, really speckled trout fishing.
Yeah.
And
caught some nice speckled trout.
And caught some nice speckled trout. We sure did. But you know, that I knew Randy kept looking at the ocean, and it just was so calm. And so we took off and re-rigged, and we're ready to go in a matter of minutes.
Yeah. Well, guys, we appreciate you hanging out with us today, and hope you enjoyed that video. And we've got more to come. Take care.